So this is schematic diagram of skeleton of hand. Okay. It consists of carpal bones. These are 8 in number. Metacarpal bones. These are 5 in number. And phalanges. Phalanges are total 14 in number. 2 for the thumb and 3 each for rest of the finger. For the thumb, there is to come out the sound. Okay, so proximal and distal phalanx for the thumb and proximal, middle and distal phalanx for the rest of the fingers. You can hear? Okay. So total 27 bones are lying in skeleton of hand. So these are the carpal bones. See, the carpal bones are lying in 2 rows. Okay, each row consists of 4 bones. It has a proximal row and a distal row. So here is the proximal row and this is the distal row. Proximal row consists of scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum and pisiform from lateral to medial side. See, this thumb is on the lateral side. See, this is in anatomical position of the hand. So thumb is on the lateral side and little finger on the medial side. So that's how you determine lateral and medial. So from lateral to medial, proximal row consists of scaphoid, lunate, triquetral and pisiform, and the distal row consists of from lateral to medial, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate and hamate, and this is a projection from hamate that is known as a hook of hamate. Okay. And these are the metacarpals, first, second, third, fourth and fifth metacarpals. This is proximal and distal phalanx for the thumb and this is proximal, middle and distal phalanx for each of these fingers. Okay. Now we will discuss individual bones. First the carpal bones, then metacarpals and then phalanges. So carpal bones, these are 18 number. In Greek, it comes from carpos and in Latin carpus, which means wrist. Okay, so these bones are lying near the wrist. That's why the name is given carpal bones. It connects the hand with the forearm and arranged in 2 rows as follows. In proximal row, see here, this is the proximal row, scaphoid, lunate, triquetral, pisiform. This is very, very important. You have to identify the bones in this skeleton, this articulated skeleton of hand. Here you have to identify each of this bone. Okay, I will show you. So first you see in this picture, then in the bone I will show you. So in proximal row, from lateral to medial is the scaphoid, lunate, triquetral and pisiform. And in distal row, from lateral to medial is the trapezium, trapezoid, capitate and hamate. Here is hook of hamate. So you can remember via this mnemonic, she looks too pretty and try to catch her. So S is scaphoid, L is lunate, T is triquetrum and P is pisiform. Okay. Then trapezium and trapezoid, C is capitate, H is hamate. Okay. So this mnemonic you can remember. So this is very frequently asked in your viva. Name the carpal bones. Okay. Proximal and distal row and name from lateral to medial. Understood? So carpal bones, these are the bones of proximal row except the pisiform articulates proximally with the inferior surface of the radius and articular disc and form the wrist joint here. This is pisiform. This does not articulate, take part in formation of wrist joint. This scaphoid, lunate and triquetrum will articulate with the lower end of radius and the articular disc of ulna. And distally, the distal row of carpal bones, bones of distal row articulate distally with the metacarpus. These are the bones of distal row: trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. So here you can see those bones. Scaphoid. See the shape. Note down the shape of the bones. Scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, and pisiform. Pisiform is small pea-shaped bone lying over this triquetrum. Here is the trapezium. There is a crest of trapezium. Trapezoid, capitate. Capitate has a rounded area that is known as head of the capitate. Capitate comes from capitate means head-like. So it articulates with this head-like portion articulates with scaphoid and lunate. And this is hamate. Here is hook of hamate. This is a projection from the hamate. So we will discuss individual carpal bones. Scaphoid is the lateral most and largest bone of proximal row of carpal bones. In Greek, scaphos means boat and idios means kind. So scaphoid is a boat-shaped bone. And long axis is directed downward, forward and laterally. See here, this is scaphoid. So long axis is directed downward, forward and laterally. Okay, so it has 6 surfaces. Anterior surface or palmar surface, it is gently concave and non-articular. Here is the palmar surface, non-articular. Tubercle, there is a tubercle of scaphoid, small rounded tubercle on lateral part of anterior surface. Here is the elevation tubercle of scaphoid. And attachments are the flexor retinaculum attached over the tubercle of scaphoid, and abductor pollicis brevis originates from this tubercle of scaphoid, which is one muscles included within thinner group of muscles of the hand. And articulation, it articulates with lateral part of inferior surface of the radius. So here you can see the enlarged view, tubercle, and this middle constricted portion is known as the waist of the scaphoid. This is the most common site for fracture of the scaphoid. Okay, so this is side determination. Superior surface has a convex articular facet. Posterior surface is grooved and there is a tubercle which is directed downward, forward and laterally, and it will determine the side of the bone. Place the tubercle laterally. So it is a boat-shaped bone. Shape of these carpal bones are asked in your viva. Okay, you will be given this skeleton. You hold it in anatomical position. So how will you hold this skeleton of hand in anatomical position? You hold it vertically, not like this. Okay, this is not anatomical position. You hold it like this. This is anatomical position. So how will you determine medial and lateral? This thumb or first metacarpal will be laterally. Okay, concavity of the hand is placed anteriorly. So medial lateral determined by thumb, which have 2 phalanx. So thumb will be placed laterally, concavity will be directed anteriorly. So anterior posterior is determined and superior inferior, this carpal bone will be above and the phalanges will be below. So superior inferior is determined by the location of this carpal bones. Okay, so this will be the anatomical position of skeleton of hand. So it is a hand of right side like this. Here we have hand of left side. Okay, concavity is directed anteriorly, carpal bones are above and this thumb is placed laterally. Okay, so this is anatomical position of skeleton of hand of left side. Okay, understood? So anatomical position very, very important. Now you see the different carpal bones. From lateral to medial, this is scaphoid, then here is the lunate, this is triquetrum, and this small pea-shaped is the pisiform. After that, this is trapezium, here is trapezoid, this is capitate, and here is hamate. And this forward projecting process is hook of hamate. And over the trapezium, there is a crest placed over here. This is known as crest of trapezium. This crest of trapezium and here hook of hamate and pisiform, these two gives attachment. These two are forming two pillars. Crest of trapezium laterally and medial pillar is formed by this hook of hamate and pisiform. Okay, and these two pillars are connected by a thick band-like structure which is lying over our wrist, that is known as flexor retinaculum. Okay, and it forms the carpal tunnel, forms the anterior boundary of the carpal tunnel, through which passes the long flexor tendons and median nerve. Okay, understood? Okay, so scaphoid is a boat-shaped bone. It is the lateralmost and largest bone of the proximal carpal row. Tubercle on the anterolateral side. Attachments of tubercle is origin of abductor pollicis brevis and flexor retinaculum. Okay. This clinical aspect is very frequently asked. Okay, why avascular necrosis occurs in proximal segment in fracture of the scaphoid? See, in scaphoid fracture, most commonly fractured carpal bone occurs near the waist of the scaphoid, this narrow middle portion of the scaphoid, and may result in avascular necrosis of proximal fragment of scaphoid due to loss of blood supply. See, this is proximal segment and it has lost its blood supply because the blood vessels were entering through the distal surface of the bone from distal to proximal. So if fracture occurs near the waist region, this proximal part will lose its blood supply and it will go to avascular necrosis. Okay. Next we go to lunate. Lunate bone, it is semilunar bone. Lunate equal to moon shaped in Latin. Okay. See here. This is the shape of the bone. This is lunate. It has 6 surfaces. Carpal bones are small bones. Okay. And all of them has 6 surfaces. So lunate is crescentic or semilunar in shape. Scaphoid was boat-shaped. Lunate is moon-shaped. You write these small points. Remember these points. Okay. These are important for your Viva and MCQs. So lunate is crescentic or semilunar shaped. It has a semilunar facet on the lateral surface for articulation with the scaphoid and quadrilateral facet on the medial surface for triquetral. See here, this facet is for scaphoid and here this facet is for triquetrum, hamate and capitate. Next we go to triquetral. Triquetral is wedge-shaped bone and triquetrus means 3-cornered in Latin. It also has 6 surfaces. So this is one picture of triquetrum. And over the triquetrum, a circular facet is there which is for articulation with pisiform. This is one pisiform bone which is a P-shaped bone articulates above this triquetrum. Okay. So triquetrum, it is pyramidal shaped. Anterior surface has a circular facet for pisiform. Medial and posterior surfaces are non-articular. This facet for pisiform is important for triquetrum. Now we go to pisiform. Pisiform is the smallest and medialmost bone of the proximal row. Here is pisiform. It is a sesamoid bone that develops in tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay. And pisiform means P-shaped in Latin. It also has 6 surfaces. So this is a sesamoid bone, very, very important. This is very frequently asked in your viva. Name the sesamoid bone present in our hand. Okay, very frequently asked in your viva table for bones. And in which tendon it develops? It develops in the tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, and this muscle also insert over this pisiform. Flexor carpi ulnaris inserts over this pisiform. So it is a sesamoid bone, develops in the tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris, smallest carpal bone, P-sepate. It has a circular facet and articulates in the proximal part of posterior surface and groove. Circular facet is lying over the posterior part of proximal part of posterior surface, and there is a groove on the lateral surface for the ulnar nerve. Attachments, insertion of the flexor carpi ulnaris. So these are the bones of proximal row. We are summarizing these bones. So scaphoid is both sepate. It has a tubercle and it gives attachment to flexor retinaculum. Abductor pollicis brevis origin occurs from here. And lunate, it is a semilunar sepate bone, that is moon sepate. Triquetrum is wedge sepate anteriorly, circular facet for pisiform. And pisiform is the smallest carpal bone, P sepate. Flexor carpi ulnaris inserts over the pisiform, and also these structures are attached. Pisohamate ligament, flexor retinaculum is attached over the pisiform, and these two muscles of hypothenar group originates from the pisiform. Abductor digiti minimi, extensor retinaculum. Okay. Wedge is a structure which is broad on one side and small in other side. Okay, wedge, this is triquetrum. Wedge sepate, this part is broader and this part is smaller. All these bones are like wedge sepate, this is more wedge sepate. This is both sepate, this is semilunar in shape, this is wedge sepate, and this is P sepate, P like. Okay, next we go to trapezium. Trapezium is the lateralmost bone of distal row of bones. Okay, this is trapezium and it is four-sided geometric shape. Trapezium you have drawn in your maths classes. So this bone looks like those trapezium. That's why the name is given. It also has 6 surfaces, and here is a ridge of the trapezium, and near the ridge there is a groove. See here, this is the ridge and this is the groove. This ridge is known as crest of the trapezium. So trapezium is quadrilateral in shape. It has a crest, groove and sharp margin on the anterior surface. Tendon of flexor carpi radialis passes through this groove. Okay, and thinner muscles, abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis originate from this crest of the trapezium. That's why this crest is important. Why are you talking? Next we go to after the trapezium you will get trapezoid. Trapezoid is suscepid, baby suscepid. See, this is the shape of the trapezoid, suscepid. It also has 6 surfaces. So trapezoid suscepid bone, posterior surface is larger than the anterior surface. See, this is posterior surface, here is the anterior surface. So posterior is larger than the anterior surface. Next we go to capitate. Capitate is the largest carpal bone. Capitate means head in Latin. It also has 6 surfaces. Its superior surface is known as head. See, this part, this rounded structure on the superior surface, this is known as head of the capitate. This rounded head of capitate articulates with scaphoid, trapezoid and lunate. Okay. So capitate is largest carpal bone. It has large rounded head at its upper end. Anterior surface gives origin to few fibers of oblique head of adductor pollicis. Okay. This is also a small muscles of the hand, adductor muscle of the thumb. Next we go to hamate. Hamate is a wedge-shaped bone with hook-shaped process. Hamate, hook in Latin. Hamate, this word means hook in Latin. Okay, so this projecting part is the hook of hamate. So medial most carpal bone in the distal row. It also has 6 surfaces. Anterior surface has hook-shaped process called the hamulus, and hamulus is concave laterally and convex medially, and it gives attachment to these structures. Flexor retinaculum attaches at the tip of the hamulus, and opponents digiti minimi and flexor digiti minimi originate from the medial side of the hook. Okay, these are included within the hypothenar group of muscles. So hamate has hook-like process or hamulus that projects from the distal part of the anterior surface, and flexor digiti minimi and opponents digiti minimi originate from medial side of hamulus. Flexor retinaculum attaches to the tip of the hamulus. Okay. Here is the hook of the hamate. So this is summarization of distal row of carpal bones. Trapezium is quadrilateral in shape. It has a groove for passage of flexor carpi radialis, one crest which gives origin to this 3 thenar group of muscles: abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis. Ossification occurs at 5th year. We will discuss the ossification. Ossification of carpal bone is very, very important. Okay. Trapezoid is shoe-shaped and it gives origin to adductor pollicis, oblique head of adductor pollicis. Capitate is largest carpal bone, has large rounded head. Oblique head of adductor pollicis originates from this capitate. Hamate is also wedge-shaped, has hook or hamulus. Flexor retinaculum, opponents digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi. This structure originates from this hook of hamate. Okay. So next we go to the ossification of carpal bones. This is asked in your viva and also comes in your theory. Ossification of the carpal bones. Okay. There is anti-clockwise. This, see here, capitate and hamate. This occurs within the first year of after birth. So capitate appears at 2nd month, hamate appears at 3rd month. Okay, so these are occurring in first year of life. After that we go to triquetrum. Triquetrum appears at 3rd year, lunate 4th year, scaphoid 5th year, trapezium 6th year, this is 7th year. This occurs in chronically, may also appear in 5th year in some patients, and pisiform appears last. It is a sesamoid bone. It appears at 12th year. Okay. So you can see the bones are appearing in anti-clockwise direction. So carpal bones ossify from secondary center except for capitate and hamate. Capitate and hamate, and bone center of ossification appears for capitate 2nd month of intrauterine life. These are from primary center, capitate and hamate. Okay, and hamate 3rd month of intrauterine life. And these are exceptions. These are this is small bones does not have epiphysis and diaphysis differentiation. Okay, so this appears from only one secondary center. So, and this lunate 4th year, scaphoid 5th year, trapezium, trapezoid may appear at 5th year, generally appears at trapezium 6th year, trapezoid 7th year, okay, and pisiform 12th year, may appear from 9 to 12th year. So they are appearing in anti-clockwise direction. So that is important for ossification. And also from appearance of these bones, how many carpal bones are present, you can determine the age of the child, okay. Capitate and hamate is present from first year of life. So at the third year, triquetrum appearing. So 3 carpal bones you will see in your X-ray plate. So if 3 carpal bones can be seen, age of the child is 3 years. If 4 carpal bones are seen, age of the child will be 4 years. And if 5 bones are seen, age of the child will be 5 years, like this. 6 and 7 also appears. Okay, so trapezium and trapezoid 6th and 7th year, and this is appearing in 12th year. So that's how you determine the age of the child from appearance of the number of, from counting the number of carpal bones in the X-ray plate, okay. Okay, so age determination, ossification centers of carpal bones help in age determination. Up to 2 years, 2 bones are appearing. Third year, 3 bones including triquetrum. Fourth year, 4 bones including the lunate. 5 to 11th years, 7 bones. And if 12th year, 8 bones, all the 8 bones are present, okay. Okay, so scaphoid fracture and avascular necrosis, this comes as a explain why question, okay. And ossification of the carpal bones, that is also important for clinical aspect and also important for your theory. So fracture of scaphoid commonly occur due to fall on outstretched hand. This if you fall over this like this, so it is fall on outstretched hand. So in clinical examination, tenderness and swelling will appear in anatomical snub box. This part is anatomical snub box. This depression over here. Here lies the scaphoid. So if fracture occurs, there will be pain and tenderness over this area. And what will be the complication? And radiological diagnosis can be done by plain radiograph of the wrist. And this is complication occurring due to fracture of the scaphoid, avascular necrosis of the scaphoid. Scaphoid receives its blood supply from the radial artery, 20 to 30% from the palmar branch of radial artery, and that enters the bone through the tubercle, and 70 to 80% comes from dorsal branch of radial artery. Okay, so it is getting its supply from the distal end. So proximal end will undergo necrosis if fracture occurs near the waist region. Okay, so proximal part of scaphoid receives supply from both arteries via distal part of the scaphoid. Thus, fracture of proximal part of scaphoid may result in lack of blood supply from distal part of scaphoid and result in avascular necrosis. And there will be non-union in case of scaphoid fracture. This fracture will not heal. Another complication of scaphoid fracture. Next we go to the metacarpal. So we have discussed all the carpal bones, its ossification and its different clinical aspects. Next we go to the metacarpal bones. So metacarpals, it has a proximal end that is known as base, one distal end is known as head, and the middle part is known as shaft. These are miniature long bones, okay. Other bones, humerus, radius and ulna, these are long bones, okay, and long bones, and this is miniature long bone or short long bones. Short long bones because it has only one primary center, one secondary center. For long bone or typical long bone, they have one primary center for the shaft and 2 secondary centers for two ends. Okay, and the carpal bones. Carpal bones are example of short bones. Short bones, it has only one center, only primary center or only secondary center. Capitate and hamate has primary center. Rest of the bones have secondary center. Develops from secondary centers mainly. Okay, only one center. Okay, so we will discuss. We have 5 metacarpals. So miniature long bone, these are examples of miniature long bones. These are also important for your viva table. What are the types of bone you will be asked? Okay. So one primary center, one secondary center of ossification. So first metacarpal is the shortest, stoutest, and it gives attachment to abductor pollicis longus insertion. Second metacarpal is the longest. These points are important. First metacarpal is the shortest bone, important for your viva and MCQ. And second metacarpal is the longest bone. Those which I am telling, it comes in viva and in important question you write them down. Okay, so and second metacarpal, here is insertion of flexor carpi radialis, origin of oblique head of adductor pollicis, and extensor carpi radialis longus insertion. Third metacarpal, it bears a styloid process at the base. A projecting process near the base is known as styloid process. Here is insertion of flexor carpi radialis, oblique and transverse heads of adductor pollicis, and extensor carpi radialis brevis insertion is there. And fourth metacarpal, only interossei muscles and ligaments are attached over this fourth metacarpal. Fifth metacarpal, extensor carpi ulnaris insertion, opponents digiti minimi insertion occurs over here. So this is summarization of metacarpals. Now we will discuss the metacarpals in details. See, these are the 5 metacarpals. You can see first metacarpal is the shortest and stoutest. Stoutest means thick and strong. Okay. And you can see second metacarpal is the longest. Okay. An axis of the hand passes through this second metacarpal. Okay. In case of foot, axis of the foot passes through third metatarsal. But for hand, axis of the hand passes through this second metacarpal. Okay. It is the longest. So, longest bone among the metacarpals is the second one. So, you remember like this. So, we have 5 metacarpals. These are miniature long bones numbered from lateral to medial. Okay, always number from thumb in the hand. Thumb is the first metacarpal, then second, third, fourth and fifth. Here you can see, here is the thumb, proximal distal phalanx. This is first metacarpal, then second, third, fourth and fifth. Okay. And for rest, in case of foot, we count from the great toe. Near the great toe is the first metatarsal. So general features of metacarpals, each has a head, shaft and a base. Shaft of the metacarpal is concave forward and convex backward. You can see from here. These are the metacarpals, first, second, third, fourth and fifth metacarpal. And these are concave forward and convex backward. Okay. Due to this concavity, we are getting this concavity anteriorly. Okay. So, and shaft of the metacarpal, it is concave forward, convex backward. So, metacarpals has head lies at the distal end and it is larger than the base. See, these parts are the head lying at the distal end and they are larger than the base. Base is lying at the proximal end. Base lies at the proximal end. First metacarpal has some important features. That's why we will discuss it in details. First metacarpal, it is the shortest and stoutest metacarpal and on the dorsal surface is directed laterally. For rest of the metacarpals, dorsal surface is directed posteriorly in anatomical position, but it is rotated 90-degree medially. This first metacarpal is rotated 90-degree medially so that this thumb can oppose with other fingers. This movement is known as opposition. Okay, to occur this movement, this metacarpal of the thumb or first metacarpal is rotated 90-degree. That's why its posterior, its dorsal surface is directed laterally and does not have any triangular area here. See here, this is first metacarpal, shortest and stoutest, and rotated 90-degree. Second, third, fourth and fifth metacarpal. So its palmar surface has ridge which divides the palmar surface into larger anterolateral area, gives insertion to opponent's pollicis, and smaller anteromedial area for origin of dorsal interossei, lateral head. And its base here, base superior end has concave or convex facet for trapezium. You have read saddle joint near the between the trapezium and the first metacarpal. Between trapezium and first metacarpal, concave or convex surface is present. It is a saddle joint, saddle type of synovial joint. Attachment is abductor pollicis longus, insert from lateral aspect of base, and first palmar interosseous muscle originates from the medial aspect of the base of this first metacarpal. Head is convex and broader. Here is the head from side to side than heads of other metacarpals. First metacarpal is rotated about 90-degree as compared with other metacarpals, and dorsal surface faces laterally, lateral surface faces anteriorly. Extension takes place at 90-degree and to the rest of the palm. Okay. See the different muscle attachments. See here. Here, see scaphoid, lunate, triquetral, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate. This is the carpal bones. These are the metacarpals. First, second, third, fourth, fifth metacarpals. This is proximal phalanx, distal phalanx, proximal, middle and distal phalanx. Here also proximal, middle and distal phalanx. Okay. PI is the palmar interossei. There are 4 palmar interossei, and DI is dorsal interossei. 4 dorsal interossei in our palm. Okay. So these are the attachment of palmar and dorsal interossei. And you can see flexor digitorum superficialis, strong flexor muscle of our wrist joint. This has 4 sleeves for these lateral 4 fingers, and each of the sleeves divides into 2 sleeves and inserts over base of the middle phalanx. And in between the 2 sleeves of flexor digitorum superficialis passes the tendon of flexor digitorum profundus. It also has 4 tendons and insert over the base of the distal phalanx. Okay, this is the muscle attachment for middle and distal phalanx, and here is attachment of different interossei at the base of the proximal phalanx. And for the thumb, you can see here is insertion of flexor pollicis longus. Here is insertion of the abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis and adductor pollicis. And first palmar interossei. Here is the opponent's pollicis, abductor pollicis longus. Here is first palmar interossei. And you see the origin of 2 heads of adductor pollicis. Here is the oblique head and here is the transverse head of the adductor pollicis. These 2 are the origins, and here is the insertion here. Adductor pollicis insertion. These 2 heads are coming like this. This is coming horizontally. That's why name is transverse head, and this is coming obliquely. That's why it is named as oblique head of adductor pollicis. And here you can see hypothenar group of muscles, opponents digiti minimi and flexor and adductor digiti minimi. These are the attachments, and these 3 are together forming thenar group of muscles: abductor pollicis brevis, opponent's pollicis, flexor pollicis brevis. Okay, so these are the main muscle attachment. And here on the posterior view, it has been shown 4 dorsal interossei, attachment of 4 dorsal interossei, and here is insertion of dorsal digital expansion on the posterior aspect of the phalanx. And for the thumb, extensor pollicis brevis, extensor pollicis longus. Brevis means muscle is shorter in length. Longus means muscle is longer in length. Okay. And here is the insertion of extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis. Here is extensor carpi ulnaris. And see, there is insertion of flexor carpi ulnaris over the pisiform. This is very, very important. Flexor carpi ulnaris, in this tendon, the pisiform bone is originating. Okay, it is a sesamoid bone. It ossifies from the tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, so second metacarpal bone, for this you remember, it is the longest metacarpal bone. Base is grooved and articulates with the trapezoid. Here is the base articulates with the trapezoid. Okay, in the previous picture you have seen over this second metacarpal, here is the origin of oblique head of the adductor pollicis. Extensor carpi radialis longus insert on the posterior aspect of the base. Okay, for third metacarpal, it has, you remember, it has a styloid process. Okay, in this posterior view, you will see the styloid process which will be projecting backward. Attachments are important. You cannot remember like this. You remember when you will read palm. Okay, dissection of palm, you will see the small muscles. Then it will be easy to remember. You just see the diagrams for the muscles of palm. Rest have common features. Second to fifth metacarpal, they have common features. One base, one shaft, and one head. Okay, and anteriorly concave, posteriorly convex, and they have a triangular flat area on the dorsal aspect. And muscle attachment you have seen in the previous picture. Next we go to ossification of the metacarpals. Each metacarpal is a miniature long bone because it ossifies from one primary center for the shaft and only one secondary center. Usually long bone has two secondary center, but it has only one secondary center. That's why miniature long bone. Primary center for the shaft appears at the 9th week of intrauterine life, and secondary center for the base of first metacarpal and head of second to fifth metacarpal appears by 2 years and fuses with the shaft by 16th to 18th years. An epiphysis or secondary center present at heads of all the metacarpals except first metacarpal that has epiphysis at the base. Phalanges. So we have discussed the first metacarpal in details and common features of rest of the metacarpals and their ossification. Next we will go to the phalanges. So phalanges are 14 in total in each hand, 2 for the thumb and 3 for each of the remaining fingers. So what are the general features of phalanx? Each phalanx has a base, shaft and head. Okay, see here, this is proximal, middle, distal phalanx for rest of the fingers, and 2 phalanx, proximal and distal phalanx for the thumb. So each phalanx has a base, shaft and head. Okay, so proximal expanded end is the base and it has concave oval facet for the metacarpals. Shaft tapers downward, anterior surface is flat from side to side and concave forward along long axis, and posterior surface is convex from the side to side. So you are seeing for metacarpals and phalanges, anterior surface is concave. Okay, so that's why concavity of the palm is maintained. And head is distal end of phalanx. So this part is the head of the phalanx. Okay, Head of proximal and middle phalanges have pulley-shaped articular facet. Here proximal and middle phalanx has pulley-shaped articular surface, and heads of distal phalanx. This is head. Distal phalanx form non-articular tapering end. Non-articular because it is not articulating with any other bone, that's why it is tapering. And on anterior surface of distal phalanx, head shows rough horseshoe-shaped tubercle. So, attachments, proximal phalanx, shaft gives attachment to fibrous flexus, sheath is attached, side of the shaft, and base there is attachment of lumbricals and interossei inserts on the side of the base of the phalanx. Middle phalanx, shaft, two sleeves of flexor digitorum superficialis insert on each side of the shaft, and fibrous flexus sheath is attached to the shaft, and base there is insertion of extensor digitorum on the dorsal surface of the base. All these muscles you have seen on this picture of the muscle attachment. Okay, all these muscle attachments you have seen. See here. This is posterior view. So here you will get the extensor muscles. Here is insertion of sleeves of insertion of dorsal digital expansion. And for the thumb, extensor pollicis brevis, extensor pollicis longus. And on the anterior view, here is insertion of sleeves of flexor digitorum superficialis for all these fingers, and here base of the distal phalanx, flexor digitorum profundus. Okay, and here is attachment of different interossei and lumbricals. Okay, next we will go to the ossification of the phalanx. Each phalanx ossifies from one primary center for the shaft and one secondary center for the base. Okay, so you remember carefully in the X-ray of a child, you can see the secondary center for the phalanx is located near its base. Okay, but the secondary center for the metacarpals are located at their heads. So this is the common feature, but for the first metacarpal, the center for secondary center appears near the base, like these phalanges. That's why the first metacarpal is called modified phalanx. This is also important. Explain why question. Why the first metacarpal is called modified phalanx? Okay, because its ossification is occurring like the phalanx, and secondary ossification center is located near its base like the phalanges, and not like the other metacarpals which have secondary ossification center near its head. So, one primary center for the shaft appears for proximal phalanx at the 10th week of intrauterine life, for middle phalanx 12th week of intrauterine life, and for distal phalanx 8th week of intrauterine life. And secondary center for the base appears by 2 years of age and fuses with the shaft by 16 years. Okay, so this is how phalanges ossify. Now, clinical aspects of these fingers. Mallet finger or hamate finger, these clinical aspects comes as a short note, okay, or a part of a long question. If some question are asked from palm, a small question for 2 marks or 3 marks can be given from this clinical aspect. Mallet finger or hammer finger, it occurs due to injury of extensor tendon that results in inability to extend the distal interphalangeal joint. Here is the inability to extend. See, this extensor tendon has been torn. So, ball or object hitting the distal phalanx, this extensor tendon is torn, inability to extend the distal interphalangeal joint, and it will lead to mallet finger. Okay, understood? So, distal phalanx most commonly fractured bone in the hand, and cause is crush injury. Okay, injury by some heavy object, ball or something like this. Next is Bardy splint. What is Bardy splint? In fracture of phalanx, it is treated with splinting the injured phalanx adjacent with the adjacent normal finger like this. Okay, a strap is placed like this along with the adjacent normal finger. Okay, and it will restrict the movement of the injured finger. See here fracture has been occurred. So you have immobilized this finger along with this adjacent normal finger. So this is known as Bardy splint. In fracture of phalanx, it is treated with splinting the injured phalanx with adjacent normal finger. So this is known as Bardy splint. So you have understood this clinical aspect. Okay. Now you see carefully the anatomical position. So for anatomical position, you have to know anterior and posterior. So concavity of the palm will be placed anteriorly. Okay. Medial and lateral, this thumb and proximal phalanx will be thumb and proximal metacarpal, which you can identify as shortest and stoutest, and it will be placed laterally. Okay. And so medial lateral is determined, and proximal and distal or superior and inferior is determined by carpal bones will be superiorly placed and phalanges will be inferiorly placed. So you hold it like this in your anatomical position. So this is a palm of right side. Okay. And see the articulation. This scaphoid, it will articulate with the lower end of radius. This scaphoid and lunate would articulate with the lower end of radius, and triquetrum will articulate with the articular disc at the lower end of the ulna, just below the head of the ulna. So that's how it articulates with radius and ulna and forming the wrist joint. It will articulate like this. This will be the articulation of the carpal bones with the radius and the ulna. Okay. And one important saddle joint is present between the trapezium and the first metacarpal. Okay, saddle type of synovial joint. First carpo-metacarpal joint. Okay. So you can identify the bone. Identification is very, very important. You will be asked in your bones viva. See, from this is lateral side. So from lateral to medial, proximal row of carpal bones, scaphoid, lunate, triquetral, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate and hamate. Here is hook of hamate. Here is the crest of the trapezium. And these are the metacarpals, first, second, third, fourth, fifth metacarpal, phalanges, proximal and distal phalanx for the thumb, proximal, middle and distal phalanx for rest of the 4 fingers. Okay, so total 8 carpal bones, 5 metacarpal bones and 14 phalanges, total 27 bones are forming our skeleton of hand. Okay, so you have understood, you have to read the clinical aspects and explain why questions for your theory, and rest of the thing you have to know for the viva. Okay, understood? Any queries? Any query from today's topic? You have read the previous bones. So today we are completing all the bones of supex. After that, tomorrow you have one viva examination. You know that? You have viva examination in the department tomorrow for all the bones. You read all the bones, you will be asked questions from all the bones of the supex. Tomorrow, this is a part of internal assessment. Okay, you will get numbers and that will be counted in your internal assessment. So read carefully. I have told from the first day which topic is covered. You try to read that on the same day and complete that topic. Very less time you get in your first year and Syllabus of anatomy is very, very vast and it is very much volatile. You have to revise multiple times. No other option is there. You have to, if you have to remember for your exam, you have to revise multiple times. Okay, so read all the bones. Tomorrow you have item for bones. Okay, in the department. Yes, and hold it with the same hand to which side it belongs. Yes, it is correct. Head is directed medially, pointed medial epicondyle medially, or deep fossa, olecranon fossa posteriorly. Okay. Lesser tubercle, yes. Bigger is greater tubercle. Huh? Radius, radius is like this. Head will be above this broad part and styloid process. And styloid process will be laterally, and this dorsal tubercle will of Lister will be posteriorly placed. Okay. So this will be the anatomical position and subinterosseous border medial. This will be anatomical position of you place in anatomical position, it will be automatically go to own side. Okay. This dorsal tubercle posteriorly, note it point. If you hold it this side, sub border is medially but dorsal tubercle is anteriorly. So we hold it posteriorly, so it is bone of right side. And for ulna, this broad end will be above. Concavity directed anteriorly, notch is laterally, radial notch of ulna laterally. This is head of ulna downward and styloid process is medially. Okay. And head will articulate like this and head of ulna will articulate with like this. Okay. Understood?